to study today, it's page 24 on Étude Talmud, dealing with a lot of stories about the Talmudic sages, which we try in our very best to explain them, but we have to remember, as we said in the past couple of days, that there are different categories, different level of understanding it, and we are just dealing with a very basic understanding. For sure, some of those stories we can learn way more. רבי יוסי ברבים הבשכיח כמד רבי יוסי דמניוקרט ושב כבאת לכמד רבסי. It was a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Yossi Barabin. He is a student, he is a teacher, and he studied by his teacher, and then he switched to another teacher. His name is Rav Ashi. We are 24. Yom Achad Shameik de Kagaris. So one day, according to the second opinion of Rashi, Rabbi Yossi Barabin heard Rav Ashi that he said, אמר שמואל השולט על מן הים בשבת, כיוון שיאבס שמו כסלע חייו. There is a concept we study a lot when we study the tractate Shabbat, which is, you're taking away a life. It's a subcategory of slaughtering, shochet. So imagine a fellow who pulled out a fish from the water. So they said if he's in a size of sela, which was a coin at those days, so he is liable because even he put back the fish to the water, the fish will not survive over some time. Now, for sure, there is a discussion how far you're talking about it. So I explained in my book, Rashi here. Rashi said, "Amar leRavashi v'lo savar la'mayit u'ben snaficha v'Rav Yossi ben Rabin amar k'mar ma'ita amar amartem b'shmei." So here, according to Rashi, there is a discussion, and so you see it. Who exactly said it, and why he didn't mention directly the name of the source? Amar le v'lo savar le'mar da'ir Rav Yossi ben Rabin amara amar le'anani hu. So again. There are several points. Point one, there is a school of thought that said that that fish was not, in a way, Seidah hunting during Shabbat. It was put before Shabbat. David, you tell us, what is called when you're putting down in the water something in order to catch fish?
Oh, like a fish net or
fish net, thank you. Yeah. So you have a large fish net that was put in the water before Shabbat. Now he pulled it out during Shabbat. So here the issue is, it's dealing according to Rashi in Netilat Neshama. You take away the life of the fish, and the question is how far. So number one, we have to know, as we study in Megillah, page 15, that when you're referring to someone, you should always give him the credit. But another phase to that is the idea that what exactly, how far you can go with doing so on Shabbat. So, Amar le'anahu, I am the one. Amar le, v'lav kamid Rabbi Yossi de'manakrat v'shchiach mar. You are his student. You study from him. Amar le'hen. Amar le, ma'ita ma'ashav ke'mar v'ata'acha. So why you left him and come to study with me? Amar le, gavad al brei al brate lochas ala dedi le'achrichais. So now we go to the next story. He said, a fellow that had no mercy in a way upon his children, I'm afraid that it will affect me as well. So what do you mean by that? So now we go to the next story. Brei Maihi. What is exactly the story of this great rabbi and his son? And just a word of introduction before you read this story, we must understand that we are dealing here with the pshat. We're not dealing with esoteric, with a lot of secret behind the pshat. It's just a little understanding. Yom Achad Abu Akri Agir el-Ba'abra Nagalu v'lo hayt lo rifta. So he employed these great sage people, and those employees were out in the field and they are hungry. So they want to eat something. So Amulei Levrei Kifinan. So it was the end of the day, and they said to the son of the owner, which was this great rabbi, they said, we are hungry. They are sitting under the fig tree. Now the fig tree did not have a ready fig to eat. So the son, who was also a righteous man, he, in our language, again, talked to God and asked, this tree of figs produce figs for this employee because they are hungry. All of a sudden, in a matter of short time, they have already figs. So in a way, it's like changing a nature. It's not the way we know things happen. It's a procedure usually takes time until those produce are ready to eat. So the employee went and ate. Meanwhile, Rabbi Yossi's father came with the bread. Don't think bad of me that I'm late. I was preoccupied, I was very busy with doing mitzvot, and therefore that's the reason why I'm late. And up to this point I was overwhelmed with work. God will give you the same spiritual power, the same as He gave your son, which means in a way your son inherited from you a special power, spiritual power. And we already satiated, we already sustained, we already ate. Amalu mehecha. He asked them, what in the world, how do you get the food? So they told him the story that they're sitting under the fig tree, and all of a sudden the tree produced because the son asked. He said, you, meaning his son, you force the Almighty to produce something for them, you should die earlier. So, for sure it's a frightening story, and there are several lessons we can learn from that. But before we go to the lesson of this one, we'll go to the next story of his daughter, and then we wrap up both lessons. So the next story is Bratei Maihi. Now the story about the daughter of Rabbi Yossi. Havale Brata, Balat Yofi. So it turns that Rabbi Yossi had a daughter that looks very beautiful, very attractive. So you look at a guy who's separates the palm tree, and he's like stuck, he's watching her in order to look at her from that point. Amar lo mai hai, so he caught him and he said, what are you doing here? Amar lei, Rabbi, im lokcha leisha lo zachiti lirota lo ezkeh. He says, I know I'm not going to have her as my wife, so at least I want to watch over her beauty. Amar la biti kametzartu lebritaya. My daughter, you created sorrow upon the people. Go back to the place you came from, Afarayich, meaning the dust, the place here, and people should not stumble over seeing that. So the Maharsha explained to us, they said that she caused sorrow to people because, number one, that person knew that he cannot marry her, but moreover, that people watching her and violating the Torah laws. So now we go to the discussion what exactly happened here, what's involved here. First stage is the stipler, Kirot Yaakov, I have the privilege to know him. He said in Tractate Bava Batra, Siman Memhei, chapter 45, he said, we should be careful not to curse or to say something even unintentionally. The famous example, I'm sure that everyone knows, is the story of Yaakov and Rachel, that he unintentionally said to Lavan, to his in-laws, whoever had this idol will not live, and Rachel died at the age of 36 because unintentionally Yaakov cursed her. So that's one avenue. There is another avenue. I saw it in a book, which is the introduction to a book called Rachash Leivav. Rachash Leivav was a rabbi in Poland, in the city of Krakow, and he was a grandson of the famous Chatam Sofer, the famous sage. So the story is that the Chatam Sofer, his grandfather, noticed one day that his daughter was crying. So he said to her, why you are crying? So she said, everyone said that I look so gorgeous, so beautiful, etc., etc. And I noticed that as a result, men will be a stumbling block because of that. And I'm afraid, since I believe in the afterlife, that Hashem is I'm going to pay a heavy price for all these things. So she said, I want you to bless me that I'll not be so beautiful. So the story goes that the Khatam Sofer said to her, because you give up your beauty, Hashem will bless you with son that will be the luminary of the generation. That's, again, I saw it in the introduction of the grandson book called Rachash Leivav. But furthermore, there is another school of thought that I would like to share with you here, because it's something that we should think further. I'm not going too much with this, but just to give you some food for thought. The person lives in this world for a short time. No one knows how long he or she will be around. If a person fulfills his mission in life, average person, a family, if Hashem bless him or her with the future generation, they did what they have to do in this world. They complete their lives, and something weird happened. And if you remember, one time we talked about it in the Talmud, it's the opposite. People cry when we bury the person, while the perception of the other world is the other way around. That a person completes his mission in this life, did what he or she is supposed to do, and they go on for the next level. That's not only part of our faith, as we all know, many others follow us in their credence. Now, we should know that when Rabbi Yossi said it, there are many rabbis that hold he did not curse them, it did not happen that they died. It meant, and again, there's a different variation, what exactly happened. One view is the Bach, he said, V'chen hava, that that's exactly happened. But Yuni Yaakov said, no, it meant to say, for example, that they died, for example, an hour earlier than their time. Or she will lose her beauty, etc., etc. It does not mean that he cursed his children. It's like the rabbi tells us we all watch and know stories of the Holocaust, of the World War II. And you hear those stories, for example, of a fellow that about to lose his family, and he gets a family member that sends somehow a ticket to his child, and that ticket can give the child an opportunity to escape and to start a new chapter in the United States. So imagine a man escort, for example, his son to the train, and he knew that he's the last chance to be together with his son, yet he is happy. Why is happy? Because even he knew that he no longer can see his child, he knew at least his child has a continuation. So what it's all wrapped up, according to Yuni Yaakov, he basically wished the best to his family. He basically blessed them. It's not that Rabbi Yossi cursed his children. There's another story about Rabbi Yossi the man who cried, so how appropriate it is, since the week of the story of the donkey with Balak and Bilam, etc. So the Abu Agrale Kol Yoma le'ota misharle agra gaba. So this is an interesting story of the donkey, and we have to separate between the story of the famous donkey of the other Talmudic text and this donkey of the Rabbi Yossi, because here it shows us something related to animal more than the partial way that the donkey speaks. Here is a donkey that the rent, in those days donkey, it was basically the same as having a car, etc. So the owner or the employer sent the donkey back with whatever the money for rent back to his owner. So he traces the situation. Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A is the owner of the donkey. Mr. B borrowed the donkey for the day to do the job. At the end of the day, Mr. B placed on a donkey a bag, wrap it up with money for rent for that day. And the donkey used to go by itself back to the place that the owner was from. It's a very, very smart donkey. If the guy put more or less money that he's supposed to, the donkey was stuck, not moving. I think it's fascinating in conjunction to the story of Balak and Bilam. One day it turns that while they're walking on a donkey, in those days was very important tool for work, it turned that someone forgot there a pair of sandals. And the donkey was there, stuck, not moving, until they took away the sandals from his back, and then he returned to the house of the owner. For sure, the owner is the righteous man, Rabbi Yossi. So there are several lessons here. First is the famous Rabbi Chaim Shmulevitz, and he wrote that we learn from that the influence that people have upon others. He goes further to say that we have an influence even upon animals, not just upon people. It's a matter of fact that in my parents' neighborhood, it was a lady that used to have a car mechanic business. After her husband passed, she used to have that. And one day she retired. I remember her name is Margalit, and she sold that business to someone who's not observant. And he complained a couple of weeks later that the dogs not behaved properly during the Shabbat. And it turns that she used to close the shop on Shabbat, and on Friday she used to give the dogs the food, and the dog gets used that on Shabbat they are not doing anything. They're just sitting out there and eating the food that left from Friday. And the new owner changed the rule, and the dog did not cooperate. So again, you see here the whole idea that there is a concept of influence of animals. This is the story of a man that was over generous. Again, we learn a lot of manners from those behavior of great sages. So this great man used to give more than they asked him to. So we all know the basic concept of Maser Ksafim, of Tzedakah. We understand it's 10%, and it was in Usha, in that place, a special decree, a special Takanat Usha, not to exceed more than 20%. Here, this fellow, the Gabayat Tzedakah, the people in charge for charity, when they see his face, they run away from him. Why? Because he was over generous, overextending himself more than they asked for. So there are several explanations what's involved here. Ben Yoyada said that it was before Takanat Usha, before the decree of the 20%. The Chafetz Chaim said that we have a famous drawing to both, page 50, that said that we need to, if you have the money that you need to give charity and you don't have the poor people, you need to search after them. And if a person's come to you and he said, okay, I'm hungry, I need food, and you already gave the 20%, you still need to give more. The Gvurot Ari wrote at length. It's a matter of fact that our former great rabbi, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he is one of the Rabbonim that was extreme in that manner, and he said, I wish that people follow me, that in that area I'm lenient, meaning, yes, it's Takanat Usha of 20%, but people should go and give as much as they can, even more. But anyway, this general concept is called Hamebazbez. If someone wants to extend himself, he should not go more than 20%. There is a reason, soon you see why. One day, this great man, Elazar, went to the market in order to buy Medunya, and they need to marry his daughter. So the Gabayat Tzedakah, the people in charge for charity, saw him, and they ran away from him. But he catched them, he saw them, right? He ran after them. Tell me what exactly type of charity you guys doing. So we are dealing with the orphan, boy and girl. The said to them, I have some money here, and these orphans are needed more than my daughter. So he wants to give them the money. So in other words, even he himself was poor, but he felt that these people, the orphans, have no resource for fun, so they take precedent before his child. He took all the money in his hand and he gave it to them. He left with one coin, one zuz. So he went and he bought some wheat. So from that he had the Sudat Nesuin, the feast of the wedding for his daughter. And Ben-Gurion said that showed level of bitachon, level of trust in God. So he went and he put that in his treasure of the wheat. And his wife came, she said to his daughter, what did the father brought? He put it in that treasure. She went there to see what's going on, what exactly the father purged. All of a sudden she saw that the place was packed with wheat. So it's so packed that it's hard even to open the door. So his daughter went to the Beit HaMidrash. She said to her father, come and see what God did to you. So he said, if that's happened, I'm giving it as a hegdesh, as sanctifying it, meaning for poor people. Should not take more than all the other poor people. Why? Because basically the simple idea is he had one piece and all of a sudden Hashem gave him all of that. He was afraid that they create miracles. If you remember the previous several sessions, we talked what Yoni Yaakov tells us. He said, we every single day said in Shmones, in the Amida, the miracles that God created for us. The problem is that if God created for me, for you, a miracle, there is a price tag. In other words, you're using your credit card. And using your credit card, you're paying the interest for that as well as the money you. So in other words, the whole idea of if you have an option not to live by miracles, by nisi, you better not do it. So in one hand we learn that we have to have a balance, as the Rambam said, not to be a spendthrift and not to be greedy. By the same token, the Ben-Gurion said, we all know the story of Eliyahu Navi and Tzarfati, the story that that was a great miracle, that she used to come with the oil. Remember that after, and every time she used to come and pick up the oil. So he said, there is a difference, because there it wasn't so apparent that it's a miracle. It's like hidden from you. There are sometimes you have all kind of miracles, but you don't see it, you don't recognize it. There's one of the famous Midrashim speaks about Eliyahu Navi. He appeared to a fellow who was a poor man, and he said to him, take this wallet and take 10 dinars of gold and give it to your wife every day, but one condition, remember not to count how much you have there. And the story goes that every single day he used to give his wife the 10 dinar, and there's plenty, and they grow rich. One day his wife noticed that after he's giving her the 10 dinar, he's hiding the wallet. So they said that she was opening, and all of a sudden she sees it's only 200 dinar there. The next thing happened, he gave his wife the 10, and boom, after 200 they disappear. So in other words, sometimes the bracha, the blessing, is something that's hiding from our eyes. When you start counting whatever you have and everywhere and every place, it's not anymore mas and nisim, it's not anymore an act of miracle. And this is one of the things that we have to be in tremendous faith and trust in Hashem. Because the truth is, you go to sleep, you don't know if you wake up next morning. So that's the whole idea here. Now, in one hand, we have Takanat Usha. Takanat Usha, it means that they put a decree that we should not overextend ourselves more than 20%. And the Rambam tells us that this is the proper balance, because in one hand, if the person is, let's say, is a billionaire, okay? So if you wish to give more, you have the option to do it. but the general understanding of the rabbis is if someone cannot afford it and he is giving more than 20%, guess what's going to happen next? He will be dependent upon others. And this is another phase that we try to avoid. So again, we need to understand these stories from different angles. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah, the next one is the story of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah, who was the son of Rabban Gamliel, who was the grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. So we explained several times that they use one for Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi and the grandson of Yehuda Nesiah. So one time he put the decree upon the public that they should have a fast day because there's no rain. But unfortunately, even with all of that happened, it wasn't raining. Look, what's the difference between me and Shmuel? Because they said in the book of Shmuel, chapter 12, that Shmuel prayed and those days of harvest, then all of a sudden there was a rain. So he said, ליהודה בן גמליאל, או לדור שכך נתקע, או למי שעלתה בימיו כך. He tried to compare himself, and he tried to say, according to Maharsha, that it was just him, he was the emissary of the generation, but that generation was basically in such a level that even with fast, it didn't help much. So one of the concepts to learn is the idea that Hashem, God accepted prayer for someone who's total broken heart person. So one time the head of the community, the Nasi, put a decree that it should be a fast day, but not inform the two great sages, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Only in the morning they informed them. There is a concept, if you look at the Sidurim, we do it at the eve before the fast, the Mincha prayer and afternoon prayer in advance, we accept upon ourselves the fasts. Now, the Be'ur Halacha said in Tavkuf Samechbet, it should be before sunset. In the previous day, you're accepting upon yourself a fast. So here, Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, we do not are in a position of accepting upon ourselves a fast since we need to do it. Amarle anan batrayu galerinan. So here is another concept in halacha, which is grara, which means since the idea of fast day, public fast day, was upon the community, so we, meaning Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish as individual, we just follow the majority. This what is one school of thought. For sure, the Rosh and Ritva and the Ran and other say that there is an idea that since it's a power of the Nasi to put a decree, to put the Ktzara upon the community, therefore you are part of that and you do not have to accept upon yourself in advance the whole concept of individual fast, as the code tells us in Tafkuf Samech Bet. Devei Nesiah Gazarta Anita Velo Ata Mitra. So they put, similar to what we just learned, they put in the house of the Nasi a fast day, and unfortunately they still did not have a rain. Tanalu Oshaya Zeira Demin Chavraya. So the young person, Oshaya, which is the young scholar, he delivered the talk, and he quoted the book of Bamidbar, book of Numbers, chapter 15, V'haya im einei ha'eda ne'esta l'shgaga. Einei ha'eda, the eye of the community, the eye of the community, the eye of community intend to say that that's the Sanhedrin, the leaders of that generation. So over there they speaks about the elder of the Sanhedrin, but because they are the one who lead the community. But since you use the word einei, ayin, meaning the eyes of the congregation, of the community, mashal lechala shehi bebeit avia. This is we're using an allegorical example. It's like a bride when she is at the father's house. כל זמן שעיני היפות אין כל גופה צריכה בדיקה. when she have a beautiful eyes, so then they we assume that the rest of her body it's beautiful. So it's like the eye is some say that it's a reflection, but others said that it's not a physical eye, but which the Mishnah in Avot call ayin tova, meaning a positive attitude in a good eye. The other one need to check it. So here, since the leaders are wicked, it's therefore you need to go to search and the people, and that's the reason for the famine. Atu avdei v'ramu l'sudar b'tzevre b'kam pag-aaral. So the servant of the house of the Nasi came in, and they put the wrap around his neck, something, and they create a sorrow upon him. Amar leo amre lehu. So he said to them, Bnei Matei, Shavkei dehanami metzaer lan. Kivan dechazin lekol milei leshum shamayim, lo amrin milei v'shavkinu lei adunam yishavku. So since we intend, and we understand that his intent is for the sake of heaven, leave him alone, and you should leave him alone. Rabbi, which is Rabbi Nasi, gazar ta'anita v'lo atamidra. The same. He put a decree to have a fast day, and still is no rain. Nachit kamei Ilfa. If you remember Ilfa from yesterday, so Ilfa was a giant scholar. So he was the one who was the shliach tzibur. Ve'amre le Rabbi Ilfe. Another name. Amar, he said during the prayer, Mashiv ruach v'nashav zika. When he used the term blow the wind, Hashem, it happens. Morid hageshem v'ata mitra. The moment he said the word, God provided rain, it's a rain. Amar le mayo vadach. What exactly are you doing that Hashem is right away listen to your prayer and answer them positively? Amar le dayerna bekusta dechika. I'm living in the poverty in a small village. That not have even the fund to have kiddush and havdalah. Tarachna ve'atena chamra lekidusha ve'havdalta. So I make an arduous effort to have wine for kiddush and havdalah. So by doing so, I'm taking care of everyone else, and therefore it helps everyone in the community. For sure there is a discussion if it's because of his zchut or it's too small for him, the Maharsha said, or other reasons. But anyway, Rav Iklala Atra, Rav happened to be in a place that they suffer from lack of rain. The same story, he put the decree to have a fast and there's no rain. I always ascend the emissary of people, as we explained several times. From the depth, I call upon you, God. The same story. What exactly you're doing? Why Hashem answered you positively? I am a teacher of young children, melamed, like melamed in the cheder, but I treated the poor children the same as I treated the rich. Whoever cannot afford tuition, I don't charge. So I have some place that provided fish tubs, and I make a living from those fish. So any child that doesn't want to study properly, I'm giving them fish. So they put the order of the fish, and in that sense, it's like bringing fish to the child. There's a few explanations what exactly he does, but so meaning, number one, he's not charged tuition for those who are poor. but also he donated from his own money to encourage the students to study. So this is a tremendous merit, zchut, and because of that, Hashem, he believed Hashem answered and accepted his prayer for rain immediately. Rav Nachman Gazal Ta'anita, by Rachman v'lo Atamitra, the same different name, pray, no rain. Amar shaklu Nachman chavot u'mingud al-ha'ara. So he asked people to remove the great honor upon his name because chalash da'atei v'atamitra. So he asked people to treat him like an average person, etc. And he reached a point of broken-hearted, and when he reached that point, all of a sudden there was a rain. So again, this is some said because he was the son-in-law of the Reish Galuta, he gets a great honor, and another one is that because he wished to be in that position, or because he was totally broken-hearted, then things happen. Similar story, Rabbah Gazar Ta'anita Barachmai V'lat Mitra, Amru Leva Rav Yuda Ki Ava Gazar Ta'anita Mitra. So you see Rav Yuda, he put the decree to have fast and turned to be a rain. Amaru Ma Eved Im Mishum Tnuyei Ana Difa Minayu. The Mishnah Rav Yuda called Tnuyei, that during the years of reign of Rav Yuda, all the learn of the Tanaim 24b, Bin Zikin Hava, dealt with a fourth segment of the Talmud. As we said in the Mishnah, we have Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. And one of them is the fourth one is Nezikim. Zra'im, Moed, Nashim, Nezikim, Kodashim, Ta'arot. So the fourth Seder is Nezikim. This is the issues that come up all the time. So there is a tractates, Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Batra is a tractate that study a lot. So, therefore, the Anan Kamadina B'Shita Sidrim, and we study all the 6 Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. V'chirav Amar Mate, Rabbi Yuda Be'oktzin, when Rabbi Yuda reached the halachot of the Mishnayot in the tractate Toarot, which dealing with a law of uktzin, which is the purity, etc. of produce, what exactly, except received by the produce impurity and transmitted, האישה שכובשת ירק בגדרה ואמרה לה הזיתים שכבשם בתרפיהם תורים, אמר רבי יהודה רב ושמואל כחזינה האחה. So he said, you will say those are disputes between Rabbi and Shmuel that we see here. So in other words, he felt that it was an extremely challenging passage, as difficult as the most complex argument between Rav and Shmuel. And we learned the 13 different yeshivot in our cities. So Rav Yuda, if you pull out one shoe, right away they have a ring. And we can pray all day and it's nothing. So for sure there is an interpretation a little more Kabbalistic to the number 13. We have it in the Echad Mi Yodea at the end of Pesach. And the meaning of the 13 Midai, etc. It's not for now. If you want to differentiate between my prayer and the prayer of Rabbi Yuda, which means we are not in the same caliber, same category in our deeds. If someone sees that I am doing something that it's not right, please tell me. But how do you know, in the sense of the leader of the generation, that it's not the leader, Brotari said, but it's the people. The people of the generation, it's not, they don't behave in a way that they deserve it. So Rav Yuda Chazar Betre, he saw two people. So he saw that they treated bread inappropriately. In other words, they throw it, etc. it means that there's abundance, because people don't treat the bread in that, bread in that, well, in a sense, is a zilzul, is belittle the value of bread. I know some Sephardic Jews that kiss the bread. It's an act of appreciation for Hashem goodness. Yahi ve'ina havakafna. So he saw it, and he didn't appreciate that, and as a result of that, it turned to be a time of famine. Amru leRabbanan Rav Kahana Rav Nechunya Shama'ei, he was an assistant in the attendants to Rav Yehuda. Mar dishchia kamin na'aseh b'lepuk bitcha samuch l'shuka. So make sure that you go and pass by the market so you see how terrible the situation is with famine. So he calls his Rebbe, Rav Yehuda, to go and see what's going on. He saw people, says, what are you doing? So they are standing in line to have a little date, box of date. So you understand from that there's a famine in the world. He said to his attendants, take my shoe. He took off his shoe and all of a sudden rain. So when he was about to take the second shoe, Eliyahu came to him, Eliyahu Hanavi, he came to him and he said to him, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty said, Ishalafta charina macharivan le'amna. He said, yes, if you do that, I'm going to destroy the world. So it's a concept that's called hatracha, that we, in our language, it's imposing upon Hashem to do something because it's not really necessary, and that creates destruction. So there's a few explanations, either because Hashem loves him so much, or because it's imposing, but anyway, he asked him not to do it. Mari said, the son of the daughter of Shmuel, we explained in several places, it's because it was an issue with the father, they used it, they lineage by the daughter. Anana Vakamina Aguda de Nahar Papa, stand at the front of the river of that Nahar, that river that's called Papa. That day that Rav Yehuda brought the prayer for the rain. So I saw the angels appear before the leader of the big boat. So they fill up of sand and fill up those big boats. And miracle happened, and that sand turned to be wheat. And when they attend those boats to the city that they have a famine, everyone went there to pick up the wheat. Amar lehu, Rav Yehuda said to the people of the city, or another version is Amina lehu, Mehal lotis benun. From there you shouldn't purchase. The Maaseni simhu, and we explained several times that he doesn't want to enjoy something that it's a miracle taken from the zchuyot. So tomorrow they have a new boat that comes from that city, Parzina, and you get it naturally. You don't go by miracles. So now what the Avetz explained, that even it was a miracle, but he doesn't want them to drive for miracle, because there is a concept that said, you can compare someone who has the knowledge that you have it available to someone who knows that there is no food. But since there is already knowledge that there is a food there, so they can wait another day. Now, Rava Ikla leHagronia, he came to that city. Gazar Ta'anita v'lo Atamidra. Amar lehu beitu kulama b'ta'anitchu. So he said to ask people to continue the fast during the night. Lemachar amar lehu me'ika lechazachil malema. Says, does any one of you have a dream? Let me know. Amar lehu Elazar ma'Agronia ledidi akriyun b'chelmei. He said to him, I saw it during the dream. Shlam tav l'Rav tav meribon tav. So this is a phrase. He said, peace upon the Rav from the one. Excuse me. Thank you. We have a great abundance. The metuvei metiv le'amei, because of his goodness, he bring good to people. Amar shma mina, we derive from that dream. Et ratzoni lemiv'ei rachamei, ba'ei rachamei ba'atem mitre. So he knew that that's the proper time. They pray and they have rain. So one person deserved malkot, lashes in the bet din of Rava. Mishum de ba'al kutit. The sages put a decree not to have relation with kutiyot, and he did it. So according to the Rambam, Yisrael 12, a person like that deserved malkot. Nagdei Rava omit. So he commanded to do it, and he passed. So at the house of Shavo, Rabbi Dr says that was informer that informed it, but it was one of the Shavo was one of the descendants of the kingdom from Persia, controlled Persia and Babylon. It's the descendants of the Baal. It's over the Rabbah. So the king wants to cause sorrow upon Rabbah for that. The mother said to the king, don't have business with the Jews, interfere with their lives. So because whatever they ask the Almighty, their boss, he will do for them. Give me an example. They ask for compassion and Hashem provided them with rain. He says it's not because that, it's because that's the season. Let's see if they ask for rain now, which is the season of the summer, Tammuz. And let's see if now at this season they have rain. So they said, Shalchale leRava. So she went. She sent an announcement to Rava. So pray that she will have a rain. He prayed and there's no rain. He said before God, Ribono shel Olam, Master of the universe, Elohim באוזנינו שמענו עובדינו סיפרו לנו פה על פעלת בימיהם בעיני קדם. אנו בעינינו לא ראינו אתה. So in other words, he prayed that should happen. So Rashi here used klomar, and he said שהיית מפליל להם ניסים, that's by the Bach, אבל בעינינו לא ראינו, כלומר עכשיו הרי לנו נפלאותיך. Now show us your great miracles. So the Rabbah prayer was not for the earlier miracles that happened to them, but is for the current. So Rabbah meant, according to my understanding of this Rashi, that he wanted to imply indirectly that God will show now to us his miracle the same as he showed it to our ancestors. It's, I brought up also the Orachaim HaKadosh on Parshat Beit Hanan said there are 4 conditions to have acceptance upon prayer. Number 1, he said that Tfilato Meforeshet, that the prayer should be lucid and unambiguous. Number 2, should not go in the wrong interpretation, wrong mindset. And here we may say that the Rabbah intend to pray like we do the Nishmat, that we reflect and recall upon all the miracles that Hashem did with our ancestors. And this is something that we recall upon my great-great-grandfather, which I have the privilege to be son after son, Rabbi Elimelech of Lizhensk, that he said that there is a phrase in Ashrei, in the Ashrei prayer, the Od Zayin, we said, Zecher Rav Tuvcha Yabi'u. Right? So the idea is that when a person is thankful to Hashem for all the goodness and kindness that he did to him or her, by reflecting all the past, he brings the abundance of good from above to continue the shefa, the abundance of goodness, chasadim v'tovot min hashamayim, goodness from heaven. So that's the meaning of Zecher Rav Tuvcha, that you remember all the goodness that Hashem brought upon us. Yabi'u, that's bring the mabua, the flow of goodness from heaven. So this means that since Rava wants to do something that it's not by the regular nature, that you're asking for rain at the month of Tammuz, which is the summertime, just because Shvo Malka commanded it. So, and it's basically dangerous he himself because of that prayer. So therefore, he didn't want to do it in such a clear, lucid way to ask and to beg Hashem for that, but he only reflect upon miracles that happened to our ancestors, and by doing so, we hope that that will continue now the same as Hashem did to our ancestors. So, אתה מתרא עד לשפוך מרזבי דציפורי לדיגלת. So they reach a point of abundance of rain, and that the Marzevei Tzipori, the city of the Tzipori, they have so much rain, they reach from Tzipori to the city of Diglat. So the gutter, when the main street up to the Hidekel river, they said. So fathers of the Rava's father appeared to him in a dream. What's wrong with you that you impose upon heaven so much? So it's like imposing upon Hashem. Change the place of your lodging. So he changed his place, and the next day he found that his bed has been slashed by knives, which is frightening, because that means that it was some type of, in our interpretation, as demons that was in that time. And the Maharsha said that they allowed to damage only one location, but not chase you everywhere you are, which again, it's above the scope of this discussion, and just to let us know that he was saved. Another example of prayer for rain that not answered at the first stage, Rav Papa Gazar Ta'anita, and again, he asked to fast and there's no rain. Chalash libei, he felt weak. Shraf pinka de daisa, ubai rachamei velo atamitra. So he swallowed a bowl of porridge and prayed for mercy, but still the rain did not come. לא אתמיתרא, אמר לרב נחמן בר אושפזתי, ישריף מר פינקה אחרית את דייסא אתמיתרא, יחסית וחלש דעתי ואתמיתרא. So Rav Nachman bar Ushpizi said to him, if the master swallows another bowl of porridge, when will come? So in other words, he mocked him, and he gets very insulted and upset, and because of that it was a rain. In other words, because he was upset, because he was broken heart, that brought the idea of having rain, which again is the whole concept of acceptance of broken-hearted people. The great one we talk so much, Rabbi Chaim Ben-Dosa, he was troubled, and all of a sudden they start rain. So the whole world enjoy the rain, and I am in sorrow. Pasak mikra, they stop rain. Now there is no rain, so the whole world in sorrow, and I am enjoying. So again they have a rain. So here we show the power of his prayer, which again we should elaborate on that a lot. I wish to have more time to speak about the meaning of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. The prayer of the high priest during the Day of Atonement, that he prayed, if you look at one of the prayers we said in Musaf, is the prayer for the travelers that he made, that the rain should not avoid their convenience of travel. The Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, in comparison, the prayer of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, that Rabbi Dr. lived during the era of the Second Temple, and he asked for a stop of the rain, and right away it was accepted of his prayer and annulled the prayer of the high priest. We learn in Tractate Yoma, page 52b, that when the Kohen Gadol left the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement, when he completed his war, היה מתפלל תפילה קצרה בבית החצון. In the sanctuary outside of the Holy of Holies, he made a short prayer, and we challenged there in page 53 on Tractate Yoma, what exactly he prayed. רבים ברדה ורבא ברדה אמרי התחווה ומשמד רב יהודה יהי רצון לפניך השם אלוקינו שתהיה השנה זו גשומה ושכונה. We pray that this year will be a rainy day and also sunny day. שכונה מעלית העיר, הדרבה גאות העיר. So wait a second, you're asking for sun? That's not a positive note. אלא אם שכונה תהיה גשומה ותכולה. If it was decreed to be like that, it should turn to be a good one, blessed with rain and the dew. So again, meaning if it was more than usual, we should have the proper balance. And also let the prayer, not the prayer of the travelers, enter your presence. So he said, אבל יבחו ישראל צריכים לפרס זה מזה, לא לעם אחר. So he said that the rule of power not departed from the house of Yehuda, and may you, nation of Israel, not depend upon each other for sustenance, nor upon other nations. Instead, they should be sustained from the produce of their own land, and evidently the high priest's prayer that God should not listen to the prayer of individual travelers was disregarded in the case of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa. So there are several interpretations here. What does that mean? One of the idea is that the Baal Shem Tov explanations. The Baal Shem Tov said that there is a connection between the prayer, the great poverty that Rabbi Hanina leaves, and the idea that the whole world survived because of his food, because of his marriage. He said, imagine you have a pipe that transfers liquid from one location to another. So the same way as the pipe itself does not derive benefit or joy from the water or the liquid that move from one location to another, the same way the righteous person, by doing all these good deeds, he brings abundance good to the world. But the whole goal, the whole mission of his life is to bring goodness to the world, but he is not looking upon himself. He can survive with a little kerub tree. So this is the whole idea of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, that he was the one who brought the good to the world, but he was the only one who was like a vessel that holds blessing and transmits the blessings. השולט דגים מן הים בשבת. This is Rambam, Hilchot, Shabbat, chapter 11. If someone removes a fish from water on Shabbat and leaves it out of the water until it dies, he is liable for slaughtering an animal, meaning that's the Torah of Shochet, even if the fish has not yet actually died, but an area of the fish's body between its fins, the size, fins and the size of the sella has become dry, he is liable, as the fish certainly and eventually perish. Another point to learn is the תפילה קצרה של כהן גדול. Again, that's Rambam, הלכות עבודת יום הכיפורים, chapter 4. While in the sanctuary on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol recited this short prayer, may it be your will, Lord our God, that if this year is hot, may it be rain, and may the rule of power not depart from the house of Yehuda, and may your nation Israel not depend upon each other for sustenance, and let not the prayer of travelers enter your presence. So that's the prayer that you see in the Musaf, in the additional prayer of Yom Kippurim.
Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim malachai